How's it going? I'm Ryan. Today I'm going to go over the three trades I took on MNQ. I had a small loss to start the day, a small win for my second trade to bring me back to positive overall, and then I had the best trade I think I've ever taken. I hit 100 points with my runner. First time I've ever captured 100 points trading futures, but it was pretty spectacular. So let's get into it. I'll talk about what I was watching and the trades I took. So first, we'll look at the daily chart here on MNQ. We were bouncing a little bit. We held the support this week, right? Big swing low. We came down. We held it. Had a nice bullish day to the upside yesterday. Today, we're kind of opening up towards the top of that range. Still within yesterday's range, though. You can see the highs and the lows of the open market by the green and red lines. The gold lines or orange are representing the pre-market highs and lows. So kind of opening up in between all of those. Heading into the day, what I wanted to see is a potential bounce down here if we pulled all the way back down. What I really wanted to see was a clear above yesterday's high and potential bullish continuation. The reason being is if we take a look at yesterday's high, if we extend that line back over like the last month, you see we have a lot of confluence over here, right? We have this day closing around that price, this day opening around that price, this day's high of day around that price. Same, close a little bit above, open a little bit above, close right at that price, open right at that price, and then we had yesterday's high at that price. So pretty big level. I was thinking if we were going to get that continuation out of that bounce, it'd be nice to see us clear that level and just psychologically above the previous day high, hold it, and then continue to the upside. We didn't quite get that. We did get a break, but we didn't get that continuation. We rejected right back down. And then today, after hours, it looks like we're having quite a bit of a pullback. So tomorrow will be really interesting to see if we break this swing low. If we break this swing low, I think we could see some serious downside. So yeah, coming into the day, I wanted to see maybe bullish continuation over yesterday's high, bounce down here, or if we broke down, that's what we're looking at. For big moves, that is. None of my trades revolved around any of that, so for whatever that's worth. So we'll keep it on the hourly because it kind of came into play on the trade that I took that was my big winner. But we'll just take a look at this time frame here. This is the 5,000 tick time frame, similar to kind of a 5-minute, but it's not time based, it's order based. So let's get into it. To open the day, we have this pre-market high right here. We have yesterday's high here. We open the day in here, holding above that 20 SM or 20 EMA. Excuse me. This turquoise line is the 20 EMA. Got a nice move to the upside, broke above the pre-market high, pulled back to that 20 EMA. I debated taking this, but I really didn't like how aggressively we sold off into this. It would have been pretty solid as we bounced like 50 points out of it. But we came up and formed pretty much a perfect double top. You can see pretty much to the T. We reject off the exact same price that we had previous high of day. So this was the high of day at this point, came up, rejected right off of it. When we came down and we broke this swing low, I was watching kind of this just general market structure. We have a double top, we have this swing low. We broke that swing low and then we came up and rejected off this 20 EMA. I entered two puts here. I sized down because one thing is that we did form this hammer. So we did close above this swing low. So even though we got that break, we got a pretty strong close. So this is a little bit riskier, and I knew that, hence why I took it with only 2 contracts. Generally, my full size is about 5 contracts, so this was less than half of a full size position. My stop loss was above this high right here, this wick, as we came down. We kind of chopped around in here, but once we held this low again on the subsequent candle, I had a feeling that I was going to get stopped out. What I was targeting was this move, this confluence down here, just this general area around like 975 or so. That would have been like a 40 point move because I entered around like 95 or so. Did I say? Excuse me. That would have been about 20 points. My bad. I doubled it somehow in my head. But that's what I was aiming for. About a 20 point move to the downside. I had about a 13 point stop loss here. But we held that low. We came up and stopped me out. Also, I took it with smaller size because if you look at the time on the bottom of the screen here, we have 7:53 or so. We had news coming out at 8, so I did not want to try to hold a large position through that news. What I was looking for was pretty much just a quick rejection and a scalp down to this next support area, or where I thought that we might bounce. So that was first trade. Came up, stopped me out. That's what it was. It was about a $50 or a little over $50 loss. I think it's $52 with the contract fees and everything. From there, we kind of started chopping around. You can see we were in this range between, this area up in here, holding these lows here. We had a brief break below and then came right back into that range. Likewise, we had a brief break above and then came back down into that range. My second trade was once we tested this pre-market high and the 20 EMA. So we did get a break of high a day. We tested that yesterday high, rejected off of it, but came down and held the pre-market high, kind of correlating also with that 20 EMA. So had some confluence, and I entered once we held it with this candle. I entered on this candle. This was 5 contracts, so I entered full size here. I took one off at the top of this range, so like right up in here. It was a little over 20 points, I believe. I think it was like 21 points, 22 points. So just targeting kind of the typical area that we'd seen rejections, knowing that it was possible that we'd see it again. We came up. That was 3 contracts. I took off for about a 22 or 21 point gain. I set my runners, so I had 2 runners remaining. Set my runners to a little bit above break even. This move down stopped me out. So that was a trade that brought me to positive about $35 or so on the day. I had 3 contracts for about 20 points each. That's what 40 times about 120. Plus I had like a $50 or so loss. So I was up, a little bit at this point. Then we started kind of trending down. One trade that I missed that I would have liked to take, I just hesitated on it because this price action was kind of so choppy where we weren't getting continuation, so it was making me hesitate. But this was a nice move that I kind of pointed out, but I didn't take. We started to form a series of lower lows and lower highs, and then we see that 20 EMA roll over, right? It's kind of trending up, and then we see it start to roll over. We came up and we rejected off that trend line and rejected off that EMA. So that was a really nice opportunity for a short. I debated it, but like I said, I didn't, because we were kind of at the bottom of this range that we'd been trading in, right? We see a bounce here, bounce here, bounce here, bounce here, bounces in here. So we were kind of in this area. So it made me hesitate. I was thinking that maybe we wouldn't get that continuation to the downside. That was a really nice trade though. I was looking at taking it around 20,000 flat, when we rejected off the EMA, and we dropped 70 points. So that would have been a solid entry. But didn't catch that one. Just hesitated, and then it missed me, and I didn't want to FOMO into it. In this scenario, what I would have done was a stop loss would have been on a break above that EMA. On this, I guess I didn't really say it, but a stop loss was below this wick here. Once we held it, I entered. My stop loss was below that wick. It was about like a 10 point. I had a pretty good entry, maybe even less than 10 points, like 9 points. So got a decent move to the upside, and then my runners were stopped out there. All right. The trade that I did take that ended up being my winner was this right here. So it looks a little different after the fact that EMA kind of smoothed out. But at the time, these 2 wicks were right on the EMA. And once we came down and we had a really strong reversal, pretty much like a V-shaped reversal. We held this EMA. I entered in here around 72. So I guess my entry might have actually been on one of these candles. But maybe it was on these once we held. Once we broke above, held this EMA, we also had this swing low here. And then I mentioned the hour chart because it came into play. If we look at where that 72 is, like where we're bouncing in here, you can see, and this is like over here on the 72, you see we have some confluence, right? We have this wick down in here, we have these highs up in here, and then we have a lot of candle closes in here. So had some confluence. We were also holding that EMA. I entered 3 contracts because I figured it was a little bit risky, right? We just had this massive drop and a big recovery. I didn't know if we would reject down, but we were looking pretty bullish from that recovery. And we had kind of climbed back into this range, and then we were also holding the EMA and this level on the hourly time frame. So all these things kind of gave me a pretty good feeling. Like I said, my entry is around 72.50, I think exactly is where it was. So entered with 3 contracts. My first take profit was on this move up. It was about 20 points. I think I got 21 points or so. It's just a little over 20 points. And I was basically just targeting the bottom of this range, right? You see kind of this level in here. That was my first trim. I took off 2 contracts and let the remaining 1 run. Once we formed this swing low, yeah, so that was right. I did enter somewhere right around 72.50 because once we formed this swing low, I just put my stop loss below that swing low. It was about like 8 points or 5 points in profit, nothing crazy. But then we had an absolutely massive vertical move to the upside with no pullback. And this is how I was able to capture a 100-point move, is because it never pulled back to stop out my runner. I didn't have a take profit. I initially did around this big wick right here, just below the pre-market high. But decided to remove that take profit and just trail it with a stop loss and see how much we could make. This was the most insane move I've ever captured. Like you can obviously see, we did not have a pullback until we kind of broke above yesterday's high. So once we started breaking up, I kind of just trailed it by like 20 or 30 points. So, you know, had it pulled back and stopped me out, I definitely would have left a little bit of profit on the table. Sometimes you have to take that gamble to hit a big win, I guess. I was already up on the day. I already had a winning day from this trade, so this was kind of just icing on the cake at this point, which is why I felt comfortable to not have a take profit and just still trail the stop. But essentially, once we moved up here, 100 points was at 20,072 basically. So once we broke above on this candle, once we broke above, I just put my trailing stop really tight at that 100-point profit, just because that's an insane number, right? I've never made a trade for 100 points. So I wanted to lock that in. Once we started having this insane move to the upside, that felt like it might be able to be possible. You know, I wasn't sure how far we could get. Like I said, I just kind of incrementally started moving my stop loss up as we were climbing, and was lucky that we didn't pull back. But moved it to about 73 or so. When we pulled back, it stopped me out. So it was actually a 101 point profit on that. So my total profit on the day, I think, was like $311, and 202 of that came from one contract moving over 100 points. You know, I was up around $110, and then that one contract made me 2/3 of my profit. So that's insane, absolutely nuts. It would have been cool to have, you know, 2, 3, 4, hell, you know, as many contracts as you could imagine. Would have been nice to capture 100 points, because that's an insane move. That's something that you don't get every day. So when NQ runs, it can seriously run. You know, I was talking about this short opportunity that ran 70 points. This was huge, and I didn't even catch the bottom. So, you know, that's one thing that I've kind of gotten over, is trying to catch the bottom, but rather get into a move once I have confirmation that the move is happening, right? not trying to catch absolute top or bottom, but just try to get in at a point that makes sense with in terms of having a valid risk to reward, and then seeing what we can get. So that was the most insane move I've ever captured. Absolutely crazy. I have live recording, so the proof is there if you want to go back and rewatch it. It's at the very end of today's live recording. So that was crazy. Yeah, that's it. Those were the 3 trades. One contract on one trade pretty much made me the majority of my profit today. So sometimes it works like that. That's all I got for you. I appreciate you. Thank you very much for watching. I do trade live Monday through Friday. I'll be out Thursday and Friday this week, but I'll be back the next week following for regular scheduled content. That's all I got. Hope you have a great day. Peace.